Are you ready for some vacation video? Hey, it's Joshua Vergara. What's going on, everybody? Okay, I still have the Sony Xperia 1 Mark IV, and that's what you are watching me on right now. I have it all set up, and I am using the DJI mic as the audio solution for this video. Now, I'm going to do my best to make sure I'm looking into the camera, but it's a little bit hard because I have to check myself in the vlog monitor, which it's connected to. But in any case, you can tell that in this video, everything is going to be recorded on the Sony Xperia 1 Mark IV. I brought this whole setup with me out to the white sand beaches of Boracay in the Philippines. Even better, for that vacation portion of this long trip abroad, I decided to leave my bigger cameras behind and use this as my main for basically every filming scenario that came my way. So, as you can tell, here comes a camera test using the Sony Xperia 1 Mark IV in those scenarios, and I'm going to be chiming in from time to time here in my A-roll setup, and I'll explain what's going on here in this shot a little bit later on. Good morning from Boracay in the Philippines. Isa's back there getting ready. We're actually going to be island hopping today and running around. And of course, I'm bringing the Xperia 1 Mark IV with me as my main camera. Fun fact, I actually brought it as my only camera. I didn't even bring my full camera. Here's a quick look of what I'm going to be using today. You're not going to see a whole lot of the actual phone and this vlogging setup, which you might be familiar with from the previous Xperias, including the Pro I. You have the grip here, and I do have it connected via Bluetooth, so it's easy to start recording on this little selfie stick, and then the vlog monitor, which of course I'm going to be using so I can take advantage of the main cameras for most of this video. Not that I really need to, because the front-facing camera finally has 4K video. Alright, so you guys know how I feel about this phone. There's already so much to like about the camera system here, and it's a little bit like having a good Sony Xperia smartphone with a pretty good Sony ZV-1 mashed into it. After all of the lenses have a lot of really great features like this 4K on the front. Anyway, let's get hopping. Also, Isa and I are here with a pretty star-studded cast of friends. You'll see all of them in a little bit, but shouts out to Alvin Tries Tech, to Mary Bautista, and also to Jason here. By the way, I always forget how to pronounce your last name. Yunichi. See, that's the thing. I wouldn't pronounce it wrong. I didn't want to dishonor this man right here. Alright, now we're setting off. It should be noted though, this is still a prototype device, so if there are some issues here or there, those are probably kinks that'll get ironed out later on. The other thing too, I'm getting a lot of these warnings here on the vlog screen also, that the temperature's too high. I mean, obviously, look what's going on behind me. It is a hot day, so I don't know how many of the features are going to get disabled because the phone is so hot. We'll find out. It's 120 frame per second time. Let's do this. So why do I feel so comfortable making this camera phone more or less my main? The answer boils down to my shooting style and what I need from my usual shooters. Having been a content creator for quite some time now, I know exactly what I need from my various cameras to be happy with the footage that I'm getting, and it just so happens that the Xperia 1 Mark IV checks so many of those boxes. That doesn't mean the Xperia 1 Mark IV is perfect, but that is true for almost any camera anyway. I basically have to treat this camera phone like my Sony ZV-1 or my actual mirrorless camera, in that I have to put it in the right scenario with the right tools in order for it to perform at its best. Obviously, the bright daylight and white sand beaches provided plenty of lighting for this phone, and for the most part all of the shots while out on the islands was done via automatic settings, because every second spent fiddling with these settings could mean that you missed the moment. Thankfully, I find that Sony have tuned the auto settings well enough that I don't have to intervene very often. And as I mentioned in my previous video, this is a much more auto-friendly shooter than previous generations. It's only when you want to get fancy with your footage that you need to move into the Video Pro app, which I did often, and if you want to go further than that, you go into the Cinema Pro app, which in all honesty I did not use at all for the purposes of this video. But it's there when you need video projects that require more calculated organization and maybe specific color profiles. Indeed, everything that I would want from a more conventional camera is provided here on this smartphone, and that might be my favorite part about the Xperia 1 Mark IV. Dramatic slow motion is achieved by shooting 120 frames per second across any of the focal lengths. Aside from some hiccups that are expected from a prototype unit, the stabilization is great across the board and means that I didn't really need a tripod or even to use the vlogging grip. And having 4K video on the front-facing camera means that I don't really need this vlogging screen quite as often. Although I will say, it seems like the tuning on the front-facing camera is a little bit different from the rest, so maybe you just want to keep everything unified and just use the rear cameras as much as possible. These are all things that I mentioned in my previous video, but I feel like they bear repeating, especially now because I'm starting to test other phones, and while they may tout having hardware that is really high-end, unfortunately the settings and the various features that those cameras provide are not very unified. One main example is that if I want to do slow motion video on other phones, it's a whole different mode and it doesn't do it in 4K, certainly not 4K at 120 frames. My only real gripe is that there isn't like an optically done 50mm, something in the middle between the main sensor and the telephoto lens, mainly because in order to achieve 50mm, you have to use the main sensor and digitally crop into it. So that is what this camera is able to do in a vlog-like situation, especially when island hopping here in Boracay in the Philippines. Obviously, it has all of the different features that I would really need to use, mainly the 120 frames per second video, because obviously I want slow-mo of that boat going across the water. To be fair though, the vlogging grip did not last very long, mainly because since we were getting into the water a lot and we even went into a cove at one point, I just decided it probably isn't a good idea to bring the part of this setup that is not waterproof into the water. And even then, I didn't bring the phone into a whole lot of water stuff. It was all like very, very, very salty salt water, and I didn't want to risk damaging anything on this prototype unit.
Hello vlog! Today's outfit of the day,
Earrings from
ate from the beach.
earrings from Subasta.
Is a Subasta fine?
Next necklace is from Ate Girl.
And because all of these sensors on the back have high-speed readouts and very fast and accurate autofocus, there are plenty of other reasons why you would use a setup like this. Case in point, this A-roll setup that you have been seeing from time to time here is made possible not just by the right environment because of Isa's good eye for design in this home office, but also because of the various tools that I put around the camera. I have a softbox literally right here lighting me properly, and then I can dial in the settings on the Xperia 1 Mark IV, the same settings that I would dial in on any of my conventional cameras. And because I am able to dial in those settings, the footage looks more or less the way I would expect it to from like my mirrorless camera. Things like low ISO to minimize the noise, a shutter speed of 1/50 or a 50th of a second in order to complement the 24 frame per second video that I'm recording. And of course, you want good autofocus, and the face and eye detect across these lenses are very good, but I turned it off for the purposes of showing you what is in my hand right now. Very good to show off various products, good to showcase anything in my hands, and you can look forward to videos on both these, the Link Buds S and the Sony WH-1000X Mark Vs. Those two videos on these audio products will be done entirely using the Xperia 1 Mark IV, so look forward to that. So that all makes this phone a good conventional everyday carry for things from casual social media usage to more involved vlogging. It also provides enough control for the studio setup as long as you give it the right extra tools around it that most content creators probably already have, and the hardware is reliable enough for my core content like I just showed you before and will show you again with the Sony headphone videos. And thus this camera system is pretty damn versatile, a lot like my main camera, my GH6, on which I use 3 different lenses for varying focal lengths for all different purposes. I usually have a wide lens for A-roll clips, I have this 50mm here for a more everyday type of lens, and then an 85mm that is put on here for that dramatic focused B-roll content. Do I think the Sony Xperia 1 Mark IV can fully replace my main setup? Of course not. It's still not my first choice for photos because much more robust computational systems exist. But I will cop to the privilege that I have in which I would bring something like a Pixel or an iPhone alongside my GH6 for video. In this case, it was the Pixel for photos and the Xperia 1 Mark IV for videos. That's a significant comparison though, that the Xperia gets the closest any phone has come to actually being a worthy proxy to my main camera, and I can already feel much more at ease knowing that if I decide not to go with my full body camera, I'm basically still covered. Of course, I already felt that way in studio because I have the lighting and all of the tools that are needed, but now that I have spent a week in Boracay with the Xperia 1 Mark IV, I feel that way taking this phone out and its cameras going out and about as well. So I hope you enjoyed me sharing my time in Boracay in the Philippines. It has already shot up my list as one of my favorite destinations ever. I think the Xperia did a stellar job capturing these moments in a way that my creative mind and creative eye would want. But let me know what you think in the comment sections down below. For more on the Xperia 1 Mark IV, hit the like button and subscribe to my channel. But from there, I'm going to go ahead and call it on this one. Thank you so much for watching. Please take care of yourselves and each other, and enjoy your tea, everybody. I'm out.